So, if Tyler Perry fucked the show Glee and they had a baby, it would be Joyful Noise. It would be this movie right here.
You know what? I see where you're going with that.
It would.
And yet, Tyler Perry still would manage a way to add a whole lot more buffoonishness in one of his productions.
And a whole lot more church.
Yeah.
They would call it joyful ass beatings because you know somebody in there is going to get their ass beat by their husband at some point.
Well, somebody did get ass beating in this, but I ain't going to say.
You know, it's funny because this movie is about a church choir, and yet a Tyler Perry movie would still have more church in it.
Oh, yeah. The majority of this movie takes place in church, and yet Tyler Perry would still beat it somehow. You know, think about it. It really is like a Tyler Perry movie combined with Glee because it's a lot of church, a lot of foolishness, but this time it's multiracial foolishness going on, and they just ain't with black people. You know, it's one of those churches that happen in the alternate earth. You know, it's a black church with more white people in it than black people.
I thought it was casted by Captain Planet, especially when I see an Asian guy in a gospel choir. I'm like, what?
Now, see, what y'all don't know is like in those poor parts of Georgia, they so poor they can't afford to have only black people. They gotta pull in the poor white people, the poor Asian people.
In fact, those white people bought those black people to come to that church. But yeah, man, it's so. What makes me think of Tyler Perry and Glee? I just mentioned the part where it's a very religious movie. You know, there's a lot of message about Jesus.
Oh hell yeah,
and God, but
baby Jesus, all the Jesuses,
Jesus, Jeebus, all that in there, and then you have a lot of music. You have a lot of gospel music, but the gospel music in here is mostly covers of pop songs with Jesus thrown in there somewhere. You know, like they got songs like we got Jesus on the wall till sweat comes off his balls. All the choir calls.
Hey man,
I'm talking about the man on the cross. Yeah.
Oh yeah, get me down.
There came a point in the church where they say like, are we gonna just die out with our old generation? We gotta figure out some way to get some young people in here. And some kid was playing some recent music, and somebody just stuck Jesus in there. It's like, by Jove, I think we've got.
Every day I'm praying. Every day I'm praying. Every day I'm praying.
I'm praying. Chopped and screwed and nailed to the ground. But you know, with this, it's. Even though it's preachy, I mean, it's for that particular crowd because, I mean, I was looking at the trailer for this and co-host and I sat down. I don't try not to have expectations of a movie besides what the trailer gives me. And I was just looking at that trailer and I was like, man, I do not want to be here. And by the end of the movie, I was thinking, you know, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And it was kind of enjoyable, but that can mean anything. And you got a movie like this.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I'm the opposite. Every time I saw that trailer, I was getting nauseous. I'm like, fuck, another movie. I have to see that. I'd rather be like shaving my balls than watching. I mean, God damn. I'm like, God damn.
Them old time gospel balls.
No. I know.
But with this, you have a lot of people who raise it up a few standards than what we expect from a movie like this, and that is Queen Latifah. And surprisingly, it just at least for me, surprisingly, Dolly Parton.
Well, she's been an entertainer, you know, for decades.
Yeah.
So it is like when you first see her, she's in it, and first you got to get over the fact that like, all right, she's had a lot of plastic surgery, she's old, she's like Madam, whatever.
She does like Madam. That puppet.
Yeah. But there comes a point after a while, it's like, all right, how many jokes can you make about this? And you actually watch it, you're like, you know what? She actually is pretty charming. I mean, she's got a lot of these down-home sayings that come up so much. It's funny because in the movie, Queen Latifah calls her on it like, you know, you got all these folksy sayings. I was like, hold on, bitch. You've been saying them more than her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know, if a dog can't count, then don't feed it sticks. You're like, wait, what?
What does that even mean?
I don't even get that.
She's making up shit now.
I mean, I can tell you both. I can tell you guys both this. It's funny to me. As soon as Dolly Parton showed up on the screen, I was like, wow, this is like my cool aunt, like coming back from years I haven't seen in forever. I mean, I loved her in Rhinestone Cowboy.
You mean
Rhinestone Cowboy.
No, it's just Rhinestone.
Oh, just Rhinestone? Oh,
That's
okay.
a song, Rhinestone
God
Cowboy.
damn it.
They didn't
All
make the movie of it yet.
Oh, okay. Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that I loved her in that. I loved her in
9 to 5.
9 to 5, and also Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah.
She's very charming.
Oh, she's charming as hell. I mean, I love her and both her Partons. And even though she does, you're right, she does look like she's made by Mattel Toys now. But it's still that there's just that charisma about her where I'm like, wow, where has she been? She should have been doing movies instead of getting lost in obscurity for some reason. Because I'm like, wow, she really added a lot to this movie. But saying that, she's barely in it.
Well,
I felt she was barely
I
in
wouldn't
it.
say she's barely in it. It's just like when you see that every trailer makes it look like her and Queen Latifah are going at it throughout the entire movie, and which I was dreading, and yet I was happy that like, wow, this movie is actually like about a bunch of different things, about some dramas that that aren't so melodramatic. They actually have some weight to them. These little charming parts, and I don't know. There's a point where Dolly Parton does disappear for a long time, but then she comes back. And then she kind of like halfway through the movie, she comes back and has a strong part.
But I see what you're saying because I wouldn't say that she's hardly in the movie. I would say that I wanted to see more of her.
Right.
And by the way, I loved her in the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, but I felt cheated by that movie because look, nothing new for me, but I've always wanted to see Dolly Parton's breast.
I still do Google searches.
I still do, yeah.
And every time I see the fake ones, I get pissed. I'm like, no, that's not her.
Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. That's the one.
Yeah.
Shit, it's a movie about whores. Of course you're gonna pull them out.
I know.
I just felt ripped off. There was a movie about whores that nobody got naked in.
Oh, they got naked. Dolly Parton just didn't do it. And I remember they got naked because I was watching a movie.
Because you fast forward and rewound it several times.
But I was watching it in the room with my father. I remember this clearly. I was watching.
Go to bed.
No, my father yelled at me. I mean, he saw there was a scene where somebody bust into a room. And this girl's naked and her breasts are flopping about. And my father just looked on like, cut it off. And I was like, and I tried to get off. I tried to get all man like, but I'm watching this. He's like, cut it off. I was like, oh.
But it's a musical. See, that was the first time I learned whores can actually sing and dance. I was like, wow, I've been wasting my money on just banging them. What the hell? Why don't they do a little show for me before?
Only the ones with hearts of gold.
Oh, okay.
All the rest of them are just stabbing.
And Dolly Parton is starting to look like that saw puppet a little bit. You just put swirls on her cheeks and put on a tricycle. But she's great in this.
She was.
For somebody who's 80 years old, she's hot for 80.
Oh, she's hot. Period. I still like Dolly Parton.
No, and dude, her tits have like their own planetary system because I'm like, those things are still like revolving around the earth and are perfectly, they're perfectly shaped. They're not falling down to the earth. Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Now let's go ahead and get in the mood for people start saying, man, they talked about Dolly Parton for like 10 minutes.
This is Dolly Parton remembered right now.
But in this movie, you have a church in Georgia. This is in Georgia, right?
Yeah,
it's a southern church.
Yeah. And it's in a real rundown part of Georgia where the economy has hit this place hard. Hit it with a bat in the face.
It's hit Georgia so hard that Whistler, who used to be Blade's sidekick, he's out of work.
Right.
He can't even afford to fight vampires.
No, he's got to work at this church. But yeah, Chris Christopherson is the pastor of this church, and in the movie,
no, he's a choir director.
Is he the choir director?
Courtney B. Vance is the pastor.
Oh, okay. I thought that Courtney B. Vance was like some head pastor, and then like Chris Christopherson was, but he's just a choir director.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what he is, his ass dies like 2 minutes into the movie. His ass has a heart attack, and when the choir director dies, that leaves an open space. And who takes that spot is V. Rose Hill. V. Rose, I was a black man. Is it Vi Rose?
They said Vi Rose throughout the movie, so I'm gonna go with Vi Rose.
But her mama named her V, so I'm gonna call her V. No, it's played by Queen Latifah, and she's the new head of the choir. But she's one of those people who wants it done the old school way. She's like, we're going to keep it in the tradition that the old pastor went. Old Chris Christopherson, the way he's doing it, that's the way we're going to do it. Now, her rival is Dolly Parton, who's Gigi Sparrow in the movie. And she has a grandson, a badass rebel band grandson named Jeremy, who's just wandered into town. But he plays guitar, and he brings a little funk to the choir. And the choir is like, you know what? We're great, but we always lose the annual gospel competition thing.
Yeah, we do
the
good.
gospel offs.
And then that midget Kirk Franklin gets up there and makes us go home.
Are you talking about the guy who's running up there doing his James Brown impression?
James Brown guy.
Not saying a goddamn thing except, yeah.
But see, okay, you look at it like, oh, that's funny they pulled us out for this movie. No, this guy's really does. He made a career out of doing this.
Oh, Kirk Franklin, yeah.
Are you serious? No, he made a huge career out of paying nothing for these great choirs. He gets up there, just says a few words, does his dance, steps off, collects all the money, hands them a $5 and a coupon for Burger King, and then sends them on their way.
I feel real stupid doing the job I'm doing right now. If that's all it takes.
Anybody who knows Kirk Franklin is a crazy, like he's the rock star among choir people. I mean, gospel people, and he does do it. He comes out and does this little thing, like, and he gets on the microphone. God, Jesus,
can you hear me?
Praise him.
Look out! That's what he does. It's not really singing. It's not really a James Brown impression, and it's not really preaching. It's just a little bit of all those things, like not enough to really be on his own and do something.
Yeah, and then he got busted for porn addiction.
Oh, so okay, that makes well. I mean,
but through the grace of God, he stopped touching his dick, got back to the gospel, and he's back.
I know that suit on him looked like it was attacking him or something. I know,
help me, it's choking me. It was the tightest suit I ever seen.
I know it was.
It's like he borrowed it from his son. Like his real suit didn't come back. He sent it to the cleaners, and he shrunk it like an old cartoon.
He was wearing his ventriloquist's doll's suit.
But say what you will,
right.
He wins every contest every year. And this choir can't do nothing. But they say, Jeremy, he could help us out. But is it Vi Rose? Vi Rose is saying, look, no, we doing it the old way. Plus, Jeremy wants to fuck my daughter. Who's the daughter in this play about Kiki?
Kiki Palmer.
Kiki Palmer, yeah. And she's like, I'm not having it. And the head pastor's like, we ain't having it either. So the big questions here now stand, the big cliffhangers here is, will Vi Rose actually be able to change and let the choir come in and do their thing and finally win? Will they actually finally win the competition, the big annual competition? Will Jeremy tap that ass?
Right. He's off.
And we'll find all that out on the next As the Gospel Turns.
But you know what, man? This is the kind of movie where the things that are not so good about it are glaringly not so good. I'm not going to say they're terrible. We always use this word. They're just very mediocre. Yeah. And one of the things that really stood out to me, because I would say for the majority of this movie, probably not the majority, the first half, it was painful to me because this is a musical. I mean, because there are moments where they stop and they do whole songs to their end. And for me, if you're going to do a musical has to progress a story. And there's just not enough story here to progress. So therefore, a lot of this music in the musical numbers here seemed like they were just filling.
It seemed like they were trying to sell a soundtrack to somebody because it turned into a music video. But the other issue with it is like, yes, you're right. I mean, it did take a while for me to even like try to understand what was going on, because I think the main fault of this movie is that there were too many goddamn subplots that they kept jumping on, jumping off, jumping on to the next next issue with the next character they'd bring up. I mean, there was like, I don't know, I couldn't count how many subplots there were, but trying to like figure it all out and try to understand, like halfway through the movie, I was really like, okay, what is the whole point of this? Because I was like, this would work better as a TV show.
Yeah.
Period. Not as a film, because I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what is the main issue of this movie? What is it that I should care about? Because as soon as they jump on a subplot, they'll jump onto something else, and they won't resolve that certain subplot until the very end, to where they wrap it up real nice.
Well, that's
and
what
tight.
I was talking about.
Yeah.
The main issue
it feels like you just watched a long soap opera.
Yeah, the main issue is to get to the competition in this rivalry between Gigi Rose and what a Sparrow and Vi Rose or whatever, and there's just not enough of that. These subplots, these characters, except for maybe one or two, they're just not all that interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I see where you guys are coming from, and I can't disagree with it, because it is one of those movies that, like, I would say to anybody, if you think you might like this movie, then you should definitely go see it, because you probably will. And if you think you won't, if you looked at this trailer, you go like, this Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah, I don't want to see this. Don't go. It's that simple. It really is made for a certain audience, a family audience. It's a movie that, but it's not one of those where I forgive it like, oh, it's just for that audience. I mean, I think it does a good job of entertaining the audience that it's going after. And there's not a whole lot of movies like this. Usually you do have to wait for a Tyler Perry movie, and you got to sit through a lot of stuff that's genuinely insulting. Here, the stuff that's bad, it's more like you said, it's on a mediocre level. It's like, well, that could have been done better. And like, yeah, there's a bunch of characters around where I go like, all right, they've made a joke out of this, and how many more lame jokes we have to endure with these? Not that many, actually. There's a few, and they're kind of cute. The main story is the rivalry between Gigi and Vi Rose, and then most of it is about Queen Latifah and her daughter. Her trying to raise 2 teenage kids. One is a son with Asperger's, and just a 16-year-old girl who's been a good girl, but like, she's ready to break out, and she's got this new temptation. And poor Vi Rose, she's had hardship stuff with her husband, and she's just trying to keep together. She's trying to put a lockdown on everything. And it's just kind of like, you can go to the Bible all you want. Because she's the main one preaching religion. Even more than Courtney B. Vance, the preacher. I'm surprised he didn't roll his eyes the whole time. But
because God knows I was. I was like, holy shit, lady. You quit beating me over the head with your Bible already.
I was genuinely surprised how entertaining the movie could be at times. And charming. Because I was just like, I'm just going to endure this and get it fucking over with. And there are points toward the second half, and you're right, Corey, it's better in the second half than the first, that I was actually cheering. It's like the stuff between Keke Palmer and Queen Latifah. I'm like,
you mean,
this is actually...
Oh, Keke Palmer. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
daughter.
Like, this is actually really good stuff. I mean, I'd like to see it in a better movie, but if this is what I get, all right, fine, I'll go with it.
And all that stuff, it came way too late. It came way too late because after a while, when you see Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah get into it, part of me was like going, you know what? I want that movie now that I was dreading in that trailer. I want to see the ultimate sassafras competition because all those girls were full of sass, and like whenever they were going back at each other, it was like they were on an episode of like what was that goddamn show on MTV where they make mobbing jokes at each other? I mean, where they're just insulting each other.
Yeah.
It felt like a competition between those two, but it felt like I was like, wow, you know what? This is actually pretty funny, and just seeing them go off at each other was kind of the highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah, no, this movie is, like I said, it is very preachy, and without a lot of stuff going with it, it gets annoying to me at the beginning. But I saw of Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, the more I saw them interact with each other, I was enjoying it a lot more. And even when it's preachy for the audience that it's aimed for. I mean, the audience that is aimed for are going to love that preaching, get some of that religion. I mean, in the studios, they know that they know that we are in hard times. They know that this is aimed towards a very religious audience, probably the majority of them black in the audience, and this is like recession period. Give the audience hope type film. You know, and you can't go to anything else as religion, so. That audience that needs that, I'm not going to even criticize it for that. The one thing that I will say is that they have Queen Latifah. I thought she was great in the movie. I love Queen Latifah anyway. And first of all, the more I saw her in the movie, the better her character became to me because the character was annoying me too. But finally, the movie just builds up to this thing where I almost gave this movie a full price just for this one thing alone. I don't know how many movies we have complained about this year where you have these kids, these teenagers, white teenagers, I might say, with white parents who go up there and just just act like bitches and assholes in front of their parents, and they're telling their parents, "Fuck off, man! Oh, fuck you, dad! Fuck you, mom!" The parents are just like, "Why are you acting like this? I thought we were cool." You know, not Queen Latifah. I don't want to spoil nothing for nobody, but Queen Latifah, there's a scene where her daughter tries to mouth off to her, and Queen Latifah slaps the fuck out of her. This movie don't apologize for it. She don't apologize for it, and she tells that girl, "I wish your ass would walk away from me." You know, and that girl comes back in and knows what mama is, knows who mama is, and mama's gonna whoop up on that ass and gets out of line.
And let me add that the entire audience cheered at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Because I felt like I got slapped after seeing. I was like, "Oh, ow!"
I mean,
oh my god, I guess I deserved that.
Hell yeah, it was one of those things where when you get a beat down from your parents, and afterwards they tell you, "Now you know I love you, right?"
Yeah, I know, because it got to the point before that. It got to the point where this girl's like mouthing off at her mom, and you're sitting there trying to justify like, why is she acting this way? But you couldn't. So I mean, this was a great buildup to a great scene. But there's moments in the movie like, okay, the kid with the Asperger's syndrome, when he was sitting down with Queen Latifah and he was like going like, you because he has Asperger's, he's blaming Jesus. Yeah. And the thing is, that scene though, I was waiting for that moment, that fucking YouTube video where it's like, deep down, I still love you. I was like, wow, okay, that's where part of me was like, I don't know whether to cry or to laugh, because I felt like I was watching like community drama or something.
Well,
I don't know.
There are moments like that in the movie where there are some moments of like not bad acting but terrible acting. There's some moments where that kid with Asperger's syndrome was all right, but he tried to play it too heavy. When he started doing, because the kid has Asperger's syndrome and he's very musical. In fact, he's a musical genius in this movie. He learns piano in 5 minutes. But to get this kid to play a character with Asperger's, they just gave him some shades and said, "Do your Ray Charles impression."
Yeah,
and that was bad. And then they got a villain in the scene, the guy who has his eye on
funniest villain ever.
Oh yeah, he has his eye on Kiki. What was it?
Kiki Palmer.
Kiki Palmer. And and you could tell he's kind of a sleazeball. But when Jeremy starts like actually making some progress with that, the villain gets mad and tries to step up to Jeremy and gets his ass beat. And when he gets his ass beat, he's in a daze. You know, he's like, "What just happened?" You know, it's just like it's terrible, man.
Wait, I've never saw somebody who actually looked like they got knocked into next week because he was
after Jeremy beat
confused.
his ass, like,
Yeah.
Now you know I love you, right? I can't spitting out teeth. I know. I'm sorry.
I said that kid must be a real guitar player because he's no actor. That must be the reason. Like,
He's no actor, and he sure as hell ain't no fighter.
He was terrible. The guy who plays the grandson, Randy Garrity, he's good. I mean, I like that guy. Has a lot of personality.
And, it's
really
funny
like
how in the trailers he just looked so obnoxious to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to hear. And when he first came on, I'm like, fuck this guy. He's going to ruin this movie. But yeah, he actually does have a charisma about him.
Because they introduce him in the trailer like he's like the golden boy that comes and fixes all these issues in this whole goddamn movie.
Like,
and you can't help but hate the guy. Especially when he starts singing, it's like, "Everybody damn it." And you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I know when he started doing his Justin
calm down.
Timberlake shit, yeah.
I know, but which is funny because the one thing about this movie I will say that I thought was completely ridiculous was that every time they had a dance number, I'm sure Jay-Z was sitting in the audience going, "What kind of fucking production do they have in that goddamn church?" Because everything sounded like it went through producers and all kinds of stages. But you're like thinking, okay, this is just supposed to be like singing in a room where I can have Leon sing right now, and that shit ain't gonna sound like Michael Jackson. Where anytime anybody's singing this movie,
heard me cut loose.
No!
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You cut loose.
Go ahead, Leon, blow.
Yeah, and I don't.
He turns into Usher over here.
Yeah, and when I say cut loose, that doesn't mean bust a fart. I mean, I want to hear you sing. Yeah.
Now, co-host, now I would only correct you on the fact that it being a musical, which it established itself it is, that allows it to break that rule.
Okay, if they did, but you know what they did though? If they hadn't come in and said, "Man, the band just ain't that good," and then all of a sudden they just sound like the fucking Who or something.
No, they sound like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Goddamn, man.
You're like, just one guy busts out his guitar. No, well, let me show you. Ding, 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 ding. It's like Prince is playing guitar all of a sudden. You're like, what? Come on.
I will say that what saves the movie are those musical numbers at the end, though. I mean,
man, that one, especially the one before the last
competition.
I was like,
those kids.
Yeah, those kids.
Oh,
like,
wow.
God damn, that was amazing.
And their biggest competition are there's not an adult anywhere. That nobody over 12. I think people who age in that band they take them out and shoot them and get a new one. But the competition is a bunch of kids. I don't know who they are. They must be a real choir, or maybe they're just amazing.
I thought it was New Edition, but I was like, wow, that's
a bunch
great.
of New Editions,
I know.
They were amazing, and then the final act with the choir that always loses was pretty amazing. I mean, you can't help but smile by the end of the film, man. It's because it ends up being the kind of movie that you want it to be, even if it wasn't in the first half. Can I get my rating?
Go for it.
Do it.
I would say that as much fun as this movie ended up being at the end, and how much of a good time I just had with that, and even some characters, they had some really a lot of the characters were forgettable, but they had one or two that had some funny running gags in there, more funny than it should be. Out of all of that good stuff in there, the mediocrity level of the first half just still couldn't help me from looking for that Hallmark Channel logo on at the corner of the screen.
Oh yeah,
but I would give it like a really positive rental. I mean, this is something that if I was watching this at home, I would watch the whole thing and I would be in a good mood for the rest of the day.
You know, even though I think I liked it better than you, I'm right there with you. I mean, it's, you know, you could watch and go like, it's a bunch of sentimental claptrap, and like, yeah, that's in there, no doubt about it. And it stars Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. If you came in and you get mad because that's what it is, I'm sorry, it's on the poster. I don't know what to tell you. But if you like these kind of movies in any kind of way, I think it's very enjoyable. It hits a lot of its marks way better than you expect it to. because of the mediocrity and bad acting and America has just been American idolized. So music has just come to be. This is what is fed to everybody. If they don't do this, you're gonna have a lot of people upset. So I could accept it, and even like the lame singing was not as lame as I thought it was going to be. I did have to laugh today every time Keke Palmer sings. She just made her face ugly. I'm like, sweetheart, you beautiful girl. Maybe singing's not for you.
I don't know, man.
Just
Somebody can sing good. Yeah. It's like that's how you know you're having good sex. When you make that ugly face,
you make that face like you drank a whole jar of pickle juice.
That makes somebody straining hard. That's the face you make. That's like saying well, you know they shit good when their face goes up like that. It's like, no, it means they've been eating a lot of cheese.
I was waiting for Queen Latifah to go, baby, stop that shit with your face. You're going to scare everybody out of the auditorium.
But, it's a good time, and especially for mothers and daughters. I would even say, hey, maybe you should go out and see it. But for me, I give it a very high rental.
Yeah, it's good for mothers and daughters who need to learn how to slap the shit out of their kid every once in a while. But you know what? The thing is, you're right. This is one of those. It's one of those sentimental claptraps. But you know what? War Horse was a whole lot worse than this fucking movie. Where War Horse needed fucking Dolly Parton riding that fucking horse down to keep me interested, and have that fucking horse sing a song too while you're at it. But but
God.
This, yeah, I know exactly. Jesus, good God, y'all.
Gee, trying to wear that same suit.
Of course, coming out like Kirk Franklin, gapping around.
Put his saddle on him. Have Queen Latifah ride, and her and Dolly Parton could go at it.
He's like Kirk Franklin, come out kicking like a horse.
That's the only thing he did.
God, Jesus. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But the thing is, this movie for me at least didn't get good until the very end, when it was about the competition, and especially seeing those fucking kids go off. You're like, how can you not love that? I want to go on iTunes just to get that song that they sang.
Right.
And I think there's only 2 words, like, Jesus, love him, Jesus, and that was it. But I want to get it because that was a damn good song. But there's moments like that where it's fun. Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, they're seasoned at what they do, and that's being charming. And they pulled it off with this. But yeah, I mean, this did feel too much, like too many subplots going on. And I was subjected to sitting there watching a Hallmark Channel movie. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a rental on that.
Are those kids a real group?
I don't know.
They better be.
I would really love to
If they
find
are,
out.
I'm buying that album tomorrow.
I'm buying that album too. That kid who they have in the movie. You just got to see the movie for these kids, man. If nothing else. They got one kid who's the lead singer, this little black kid, and he was working that show, man.
He was.
Bitches were throwing bras and panties at him. I think he pulled one chick backstage.
I know. Michael Jackson was in the grave going, God damn.